a thing for you, and I can't let go. My friends wonder what is wrong with me. Well, I'm in the daze from your love, you see. I came back to let you know, got a thing for you, and I can't let go. Tried everything, but you don't give up. In my world, only you make me do for love what I would not do.
Want to thank the fine folks at Mueller Brothers Golf for being the official sponsor of today's episode of the State of the Saints podcast. Look, we all want to look good on a golf course. Those that play golf, you want to look good, you want to play well. Well, that often comes at the expense of feeling good. Mueller Brothers Golf has polos that look good and feel good. With their lightweight and stretchy materials that hug your body, you will feel cool while looking just as cool. Their polos are guaranteed to make you look better, but it's up to you to work on that golf game. On a hot summer day or on a beautiful spring day like this, on the golf course, there is no polo that you would rather wear than Mueller Brothers Golf signature polos. Mueller Brothers Golf has a large catalog of polos with designs for those who want a loud design or those that may want a design that's a little bit more subtle, and sleek looking designs as well. They also have fun t-shirts, hats, tumblers, and so much more to make your golf experience even better. Use the promo code BELLYUP at MuellerBrothers.com to save 15% off. And you don't have to purchase a Mueller Brothers shirt just to play golf. I mean, these shirts are comfortable. You can actually wear them out and about. You can look good. You got the great design on it. I mean, why wouldn't you want to stand out in the crowd? So go to MuellerBrothers.com, use the promo code BELLYUP, right? MuellerBrothers.com, use the promo code BELLYUP and save 15% off. Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast on Belly Up Sports. Thank you all for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Once again, the show is brought to you by MuellerBrothers.com, the place where you go for all your golf shirts, golf apparel, items, or what have you. So special shout out to Mueller Brothers for being the official sponsor of today's episode of the State of the Saints podcast. On this edition, we're going to be talking about the two new additions for the New Orleans Saints on the defensive line. I'm referring to Colin Saunders and also Nathan Shepard. All right, we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be getting into Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston wrote a statement as to why he decided to come back to the New Orleans Saints. But I do want to say thank you to everybody in the chat. Shouts out to everybody around the country, around the world. I know that sounds a little bit recorded over and over again, but I want to acknowledge everybody here before we even get started, because there will be no State of the Saints podcast without you all. So I really do appreciate that. But let's go ahead and get into it. We can start with the two new additions to the New Orleans Saints. You know, on yesterday, we seen some familiar faces leave the New Orleans Saints. Davion Yamada goes to Atlanta. Shy Tuttle, he goes to Carolina. Malcolm Roach, as of right now, is still testing the free agent market. According to sources, the Saints offered him a 2-year contract. He decided to see if he can actually go out here and maybe get a little bit more money. But But today is a pretty good day because the Saints reloaded up on the defensive side of football. They addressed the defensive tackle position, and they got some pretty good guys. Some pretty decent players out there. I'll start with Nathan Shepard. Nathan Shepard is 6'4", 315 pounds. Had his best season statistically last year with the Jets. He had 33 tackles, 17 assisted, 1.5 sacks. And he's he spent some time in the CFL, played Canadian football. He's actually from Canada. Shouts out to my boy Tim that's out there. Shouts out to him, man. He's from the Great White North. And he coming to the New Orleans Saints. And he is a guy who is, he's not going to be the guy that you just think about as going to be the individual that's going to change your team, that's going to change your team's life. But what he does is he's really good at stopping a run. And we know that the Saints have had issues with stopping a run as of late. The Saints are committed to him. They gave him a 3-year, $15 million contract. Some people felt like that was a little bit much. But what he actually brings to the table, he brings size, he brings speed, and he can move, And, there are times where, he had to stop the run, goal line situation. He stepped up and rose to the occasion. He was a part of that defensive rotation that was out there with the Jets. They had some injuries on that line, so it caused him to play a little bit more. And when he got the opportunity to play, he played really well. So the Saints compensated him as such, and he's going to be here for 3 years. And they also added another guy who is going to be here for 3 years. And this is a guy that I'm extremely excited about, and that's Colin Saunders. Colin Saunders came out of Western Illinois. He was a guy who, man, this dude was a freakish athlete. Now, this guy is 6 foot tall, 330 pounds. They say 324, but I don't believe him. I'm going to say about 330. They had this dude out here catching passes, fade routes in college. He played fullback. They had him lined up on the edge. I mean, this guy is a super athletic guy. And I'm pretty sure if some of you probably saw some of the videos that's going on around, I mean, this guy's out here backflipping at 325 pounds. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty remarkable to actually see that. Also, man, it was the way that Kansas City used him. Kansas City, they used him as a linebacker, at times. They had him standing up, from the interior. I mean, this guy, I remember one play I seen, this dude was trying to chase down Austin Eckler and almost caught him. So the Saints needed some athleticism on the defensive side of football when it comes to the defensive line, and they got it. And this guy, he isn't one of those individuals that, is a household name. If you don't really follow football like that, you probably don't know who this guy is. But I guarantee you, this guy is going to be a player that the Saints fans love. They're going to love him because of, his passion for the game. He's a guy that has a really high motor. If motor runs hot, we know the motto here on the State of the Saints podcast: no cold motors. We don't want no more cold motors, and the Saints definitely seem like they don't want one either. So this guy is a person that can be on the field, and I'm pretty sure more than likely he's going to be a starter. He's a 2-time Super Bowl winning champion with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he brings that to the New Orleans Saints. Tyrann Mathieu is his former teammate. Tano Passanio is his former teammate, and I'm pretty sure Derek Carr knows exactly who this dude is. So happy to have these two guys on the interior, but this is in no way should stop the New Orleans Saints from trying to pursue guys. There's still some talented guys that you can add to the interior. And even though I like Nathan Shepard and, the number that's showing up, it shows that maybe the Saints are going to have him in the starting rotation. I still feel like the New Orleans Saints need to address the defensive line. Maybe you want to get yourself another edge rusher because at this particular point, Peyton Turner has had some injuries over the last couple of years. So you can't count on him to be out there playing every single snap in every single game. He is probably the guy you're looking at to be the starter. But as of right now, I'm looking at some guys. I'm looking at Nolan Smith. I'm looking at some of these other talented edge rushers out there, McDonald. I'm looking at, all of these different guys that can rush the quarterback. I'm not just content on that. And I'm also looking at defensive tackles. I still feel like you should be high on Kalijah Cansey. I still feel like you need to be high on Edebawe. I think that you need to be still high on some of those guys that can add to the interior, because you can never have too many guys that can stuff the middle and stuff the run. So I'm looking forward to seeing these two guys in the Saints uniform, and hopefully they can add some better run stopping than we've seen over the last couple of years. Let's go ahead and read some of your comments, and then we'll get into the Jameis Winston comments. But let me go here. It says, I don't know any of these defensive tackles they signed. I only hope they stuff the run. Last year, especially the beginning of the season, they couldn't stop the run. Defense is basic. Stop the run, rush the passer. Well, look, here's the thing, man. I know sometimes we get enamored with names. We want guys to come in that we recognize that have done this, that, and the third, that probably have a Pro Bowl, probably have an All-Pro. But every now and then, man, there's some guys that slide through the cracks. And, the Saints have found guys in years past who have slid through the cracks and have made noise. I think about Demario Davis. Demario Davis wasn't a household name. If you follow football, you knew who Demario Davis was. But if you were just a casual fan, you had no idea who he was or what he can do. And now we look at Demario Davis. He's one of the most well-respected New Orleans Saints, not just in the locker room, but of all time. Like, sometimes it's not always about the name. Sometimes, well, it's not. Sometimes, most of the time, it's about the game. And I think that all of these guys that they added today, both of these guys, I should say, they add a different dynamic. And I think that their athleticism is probably one of the main reasons why the Saints tried to pursue them. It's pretty obvious that the Saints, they want to get after the quarterback and they want to stop the run. And they know by doing this, they're going to have to draft and also look at guys that are athletic. And I think that based on them signing Saunders, it seems to me like the Saints want to go in a little bit of a different direction, because the athleticism of this man at his size, it just tells me that the Saints are trying to do something a little bit different. They're trying to find more athletic guys on that front, guys that can get started early. The biggest issue that the New Orleans Saints had over the last couple of years is the defensive line starts late. I mean, you're waiting 4 and 5 weeks into the season before these guys really start making some noise. And if you can get some guys in there that's athletic enough that you can find success sacking a quarterback from the jump off the porch, I think that is going to be a plus for the New Orleans Saints. So adding these two guys is a start. But once again, I don't think that the Saints should be done with looking for guys that could actually add to the fortune of that pass rush. Once again, Nolan Smith is a guy that, that you need to be looking at right now. You need to be looking at some of these other guys that are coming out, as pass rushers that can come in and that can start right away and probably can give you close to those double-digit sacks because of their athleticism and their ability. So that's what I feel like the Saints still need to be looking at, even though they just signed two very talented defensive tackles. Let's see. By the way, Rodgers announced his intentions to play for the Jets today. Yeah, I seen that on Pat McAfee show, or where I heard about it. I watched a little bit of it right before the show started. But I feel this way about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is an extremely talented guy, but just the way that he operates and the way that he does business and how smug, and I mean, it just turns me off as a fan. I know when the Saints were looking for a quarterback, his name came up, but I wasn't interested, man. I'd rather go out there with some guys that I know that they're going to give their all. They're not caring about stats. They're not caring about how they look. They're not caring about if they turn the ball over, how many interceptions they get. They just care about the team. That's what matters to them, the overall team. And I find it very ironic that, Aaron Rodgers felt some type of way, the way that Brett Favre treated him, towards the tail end of Brett Favre's career in Green Bay. And he's doing the same exact thing. I mean, and honestly, he made the same exact decision, if you think about it, which is extremely funny. But you can't say that the Green Bay Packers aren't consistent, because they consistently found the same quarterback for over 30 years, all right, total, right, between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. But I don't know. It just bothers me when I see individuals who feel like oh, somebody just need me, oh, you just need me. You can tell a lot about a person when somebody can't do absolutely nothing for them, right? And they call all the shots and they got everything in their hands. And I've seen on several occasions when Aaron Rodgers had all the hand, if you will, all the position, all the pull, and it just rubs me the wrong way that it seems like he just wants people to grovel at his feet, right? I mean, it didn't have to take this long. A lot of sources have been saying that he's going to be going to the Jets. There was no other team that nobody said that he was talking to but the Jets. So it just seemed to me like they were just trying to, he was just trying to make these guys sweat. And to be quite honest with you, I know the Jets probably happy because they finally got their guy, but I still don't feel like, they can go to the Super Bowl just because he's there, because I watch Aaron Rodgers quite a bit. And one of his biggest issues that I've seen was the fact that anytime he's under the rest or he gets in trouble, he becomes disinterested and he's not trying to play. And he's not one of those guys where he's going to stand strong in the pocket and try to deliver the throw. More times than not, if he's getting sacked 3 and 4 times, he's just going to throw the ball away and become disinterested. And that's the type of guy that I wouldn't want on my football team. I don't care how talented he is. But, I mean, if the Jets are happy, then, that's the important thing, because, the Jets, they seem like they're going in the right direction. They got some really talented young guys on their team. It seemed like they've been hitting it out the park with the draft, and it would be unfortunate that they would sign Aaron Rodgers and all of that goodwill and all these good draft picks would be for absolutely nothing, because Aaron Rodgers pretty much alienated the entire team. That's my opinion. Like Ross Jackson said, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast, your team every day. Yeah, man, shouts out to Ross Jackson, man, who works extremely hard, providing information, providing shows, works really hard. And, I've had opportunity to meet Ross, and, I think, I can truly say, I can call him a friend now. Just having conversations with him, talking with him. I mean, a really, truly great individual, so shouts out to him. Let's see. If he stays healthy, he'll be a problem. Well, I don't know exactly who he's talking about here, as far as being a problem. Didn't know who Ayamada was coming in the NFL. Big names don't always equate. You get good run stuffers and rush. That's key. Yeah, I mean, look, people get enamored at names, and I can understand that. Like, sometimes it's just a level of comfortability, right? Like knowing that a guy is talented, knowing that a guy is capable of being an all-pro, capable of being a Pro Bowler, kind of put your mind at ease, right? Because you don't have to worry too much about that position. But sometimes the only thing that's separating one guy from another is opportunity. Like you look at, Colin Saunders. I mean, look, man, they had a really talented defensive front in Kansas City. And I mean, Chris Jones was there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't about to beat out him, right? So reps are going to be very, very limited. So sometimes it's not the fact that the guy isn't good enough or he isn't talented enough. It's just the fact that maybe somebody else has come in who probably demands more money and probably is really good and is probably going to make your reps kind of fall. But going to another team, you'll probably see his talent shine through. So, and I'm thinking that's the case, so I'm looking forward to seeing what Saunders can do. I'm looking forward to seeing what Shepard can do. Shepard is the same way. I mean, when you got Quentin Williams on the line, I mean, you got Williams out there. I mean, you had Sheldon Rankins that was out there. So you were struggling. You were struggling to get, on the field. So now you have an opportunity to, be a starter, have an opportunity to compete to be a starter. Can we afford Austin Eckler? Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Saints can if they maneuver some things and move some things around. But I'm just saying, this is the way I feel about it. I just think that if you can have opportunity to get a guy in the draft that possesses the same type of skill set and ability of Austin Eckler, why would you go out here and spend more money than what you have to spend when you can get the guy with the same skill set in the draft? No disrespect to Austin Eckler. I think he's really, really good, but I'm not trying to pay that much money when I got a guy like Alvin Kamara that demands the majority of the cap from the running backs. I can easily just go and get me a running back for the cheap that can provide the same type of skill set of an Austin Eckler. Now, he may not be Austin Eckler because I don't want to disrespect the guy. I just feel like every time Dick and Austin is on the street, but I do feel like his skill set can be replicated, and you can find somebody in a draft that can do it. So that's the way I feel. Baker Mayfield will take the Bucs nowhere. Look, I don't know where Baker Mayfield can take the Bucs. I'm just happy that man got a job because I just think that people weren't looking at Baker Mayfield for what he went into and what he was dealing with. He went to the Cleveland Browns, a team that didn't win a game, the year before they drafted him. The first game they won, he was the quarterback. The first time they went to the playoffs, and I don't know how long, he was the quarterback. So you can talk about, they had this, that, and the third around him. It still took him to make some plays and make some throws down the field in order for them to even get into the playoffs. So I'm happy that man got an opportunity. Will it pan out in Tampa? Probably not. Probably not. I can't see that happening because I just feel like Tampa days are numbered. I feel like, they're sold for riches by getting Tom Brady, and Tom Brady getting all these other guys to come in, and they have to, exhaust their checkbook. And now you have to basically pick up the pieces. And you also, did a lot of things with the cap, that you have to work on as well. So this is the route that they have to go. Are they going to stay right here and maybe just, we're going to roll with Baker? I doubt that. I'm pretty sure they probably try to get themselves a quarterback. Or they might be happy with Kyle Trask. I mean, we don't know what Kyle Trask has to offer. I mean, we seen him on the bench. Of course, he's going to be on the bench. He's Tom Brady backup, right? You ain't about to start over Tom Brady. So who knows what's going to happen, man? I am one of those individuals that give people opportunities. Sometimes the change of scenery is good for players. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you can have a change of scenery, but it still don't work out for you because it's not the right coaching staff or the right players around you. But I don't think that Baker Mayfield is just God awful where he can't be productive in Tampa if his name is called, if they give him, the opportunity. So I'm happy for the guy. I ain't about to sit up there and say the dude is trash and all that kind of stuff, man. I don't know. Like, all I know is the Cleveland Browns are a train wreck, and they have been a train wreck for I don't know how long. And I just don't think it's fair for us to just look past the organization and just focus in on a player. Like, some of these players are in unbelievable circumstances that they can't get themselves out of. And once that narrative goes out about them, then the next thing you know, he's terrible. Let's see. Myself, I really wish they kept Ayamada. He's gone. He must be able to get that push in the middle of the line. Turner, in my opinion, is a bust. He might be as good as Davenport was. Not saying much. Well, look, I'm not saying the guy is a bust. I'm not saying that. It's hard for me to say a guy after 2 years is a bust. Now, if this is a reoccurring thing, then I would say he's a bust. I just think that we can't just jump to conclusions and be quick to just call somebody a bust because maybe they got injured or maybe they weren't on the field as much. It takes some years for me to consider a guy an absolute bust, right? Now, there are situations where, guys can be obvious bust. But I'm still giving this guy opportunity because, he played last year. He made some plays. I mean, the play that got him hurt. I mean, he stopped the play on 4th down, right? So there's something there, So I'm willing to give this guy a chance. Sometimes it's unfortunate that these guys have these injuries, man. So, and as far as David Yamada is concerned, look, I like David Yamada too, but I'm just gonna keep it real. I don't want to say keep it real, but this is my opinion. As far as an athlete, as far as talent, as far as skill set, as far as like moves, Saunders is a little bit better than Yamada. And I feel pretty comfortable with saying that because, David Yamada is a beast. I'm not going to take that away from him. But you look at Saunders, who's 26 years old, the light already pretty much came on for him. The opportunities that he got with the Kansas City Chiefs, he took advantage of them. So I feel like he has the upside to be like really, really, really talented and be a real force in the middle for the New Orleans Saints for years to come. But, and if you have an opportunity to get a guy like this that's younger and has that talent, you have to get away from that veteran. And maybe that's what happened when it came to David Onyemata. The Saints wanted to get a little bit younger, and they wanted a little bit more from that defensive tackle position. Vincent says, I think these guys are good picks by DA. Yeah, I mean, I think they're really good picks as well. I think that sometimes, it doesn't always have to be about the name. And I think that some people are kind of hesitant about it because they don't recognize the guy. But yeah, could we afford to sign Frank Clark to come off the edge? I'm pretty sure they probably could if they move some things around, but that price tag is going to be a little bit high. So maybe that's why I'm saying maybe you may want to look into the NFL draft and maybe bringing a guy in. What happened, TJ? I wonder Puna Ford and maybe Ashawn Robinson still on the table. Well, look, I don't think that those guys are on the table anymore based on what the Saints have done. I think the Saints signing these two guys are indicators that these probably going to be the two guys that they want to be as the starter, or if they bring in a first-round draft pick, they'll probably add him into the group and maybe see where they're at, because what the Saints do is the Saints don't really do too much business around this time. Like, I expect for the New Orleans Saints to have these two guys, and then probably after the draft, when everything just kind of calms down and people aren't just throwing money left and right, they kind of just can look back and be like, okay, what do we have here? And then they kind of evaluate the situation, and then they make their move. But we seen this last year, right, when they acquired Jarvis Landry, when they acquired Tyrann Mathieu. They didn't just go out there real quickly and say, okay, we're going to sign these guys. They waited, because the longer that those guys out there, the less leverage that they have. And I know that that's messed up, but it's just the truth. When those guys are still available at a certain time and they're not a part of that first wave or that second wave of free agents, all of a sudden, teams start focusing on the draft. So you may be a defensive tackle and the Saints may need you, but this team probably going to end up drafting a guy, that now we can develop and we don't have to worry about going out here spending X and Y and Z for this guy. And, when that starts to happen, then the market just starts to fall a little bit and guys get a little bit more willing to sign with teams. So that's probably what's going to happen. The Saints need to focus on the O-line and D-line in the first 4 picks. Don't forget Velma came from the Jets. Yeah, via trade, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, I mean, the Saints have had some success, with guys from the Jets, So, maybe, that can be replicated again. I'm pretty sure that, it can be with Shepard. As far as the O-line and D-line, yeah, those are definitely positions that they need to address. They shouldn't wait. They definitely should, pursue a pass rush. That's what I feel they are going to do in the first round. I think they're going to get that pass rush. They're going to try to get the best guy available on defense. I think they might go offensive line and probably one of the later rounds. Wouldn't surprise me if they go defensive end, first round, defensive tackle the second round, or defensive tackle the first round, edge rush the second round. Like, it would not surprise me at all if the Saints do that. And it also wouldn't surprise me if the Saints, try to move up a couple spots, if they see a guy that they were really in love with. I can see them like moving up a little bit, maybe, to the teens, maybe making a deal with the Patriots. We know the Patriots are willing to make deals. The Patriots aren't, one of those teams that just content. They constantly move around. And I want to say they're probably at around 18 or 19 or something like that, but somewhere in the late teens. And if you can get a guy, let's just say if you feel like, Kalijah Kancey is not going to be there at number 29, you can probably, make a deal with the Patriots or make a deal with one of those other teams that's in the teams, maybe switch spots with them, and you can move up and try to acquire the defensive tackle, or try to acquire a better offensive lineman, or try to acquire a guy that's at a certain skill position. I mean, there's always ways around it, right? So that's I can see the New Orleans Saints doing that. I can't see the Saints just being content with that. Shepard is underrated player. He is very skilled guy. Saunders is a very good, solid guy that started in KC. Yeah, I mean, I think he can start for the New Orleans Saints as well. I think he will start for the New Orleans Saints as well. I do want to acknowledge some of those that donated here. Aaron Rodgers, thank you very much for $2. Says, care to say it to my face. If I knew you, Aaron, I'd say it to your face. I'm serious. Like I'm not shying away from something like that. I mean, the whole world can actually see, they ain't the way you do business. Sheldon Rankins reunion is out the window. He signed a 1-year deal with the Texans. Keep up the great work, TJ. Congrats on the new partnership of Belly Up Sports. Yeah, thank you, Hoodie. Yeah, I appreciate that. But I'm happy for Sheldon Rankins, getting the opportunity play, for a team. Him going to there with, going to the Texans with DeMeco Ryans, the defense is going to be good. And I'm pretty sure DeMeco is signing him to head up that defense for the Texans as they try to rebuild over there. And hopefully the ownership over there, hopefully they can give a guy some time and maybe not just be so quick to try to fire a guy. But I think they might keep him around, especially since he has ties to the Houston Texans. Nolan Nerd, thank you very much for the 504. Says Shepard from the Jets has a lot of upside. I love Saunders. He's a brick house and is explosive and can do backflips. Thanks for going live. Who that? Nolan Nerd, thank you so much. I appreciate that as well. Thank you for the 504. Also, Robert, thank you very much for the 199. Said hit the like button. We in here. Who that nation? Thank you very much for the 199. I think we pretty much caught up with the donations, but let's go ahead and switch gears. Let's talk a little bit about Jameis Winston. There were a lot of questions about Jameis. Question was, why did Jameis come back? Jameis had opportunity, maybe to go compete for a starting job. Jameis could have, went here, went there, but, we don't know why. We didn't know why at the time. But Jameis Winston took to Twitter, he took to his social media, and he wrote a statement. And this statement pretty much sums up why he decided to come back. And I'm going to put it up on the screen. And it simply says why I came back. First, I love the city and all of my professional career. I've never felt so culturally in tune with the fan base. The Saints fans that I've met have been incredible. Y'all have made me and my family feel at home. That is why last season was so disappointing to me. I wanted to see this team and this city succeed. I know great things are ahead for this team and this city. I was led by the Spirit. That's why I would never run away from the new challenge. The things that led me here are still here. A stable organization, a championship caliber team, and a great fan base. This year, like last year's team, is built to win the Super Bowl. Let there be no doubt. I am still a championship caliber starting quarterback in this league. However, getting healthy and staying healthy is my number one priority. And I have suffered 3 devastating injuries over the last 2 years. I need to stay healthy to assist the team in getting to where we want to go. Most importantly, I need to stay healthy to get me where I want to go in my career. With that being said, I will serve and lead however I need to see this organization and city win. I am proud to say for one more year at least, who that? So that comes from Jameis Winston. So it is a lot of things and a lot of factors that really came into him actually coming back. He talked about some of the injuries that he sustained. And, if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Jameis Winston doesn't have the benefit of the doubt of, he was hurt or, he wasn't healthy or, because the reputation of Jameis Winston is the fact that he's not a good quarterback. Like some people do not like this dude. Some people do not, respect this guy. I see people just putting like one of the most mediocre, bottom of the barrel backup quarterbacks or quarterbacks that is saying that's better than this guy. if you really look at football and really evaluate it and you take out 2019, there is no way that you can sit up here and say this dude ain't a serviceable quarterback. I like the fact that he understands where his position is and how the narrative is about him. And if he's not perfectly healthy, nobody is going to say that because he is the butt of people's jokes. He is one of the most disrespected quarterbacks that I have ever seen. I've never seen a guy who just cannot resurrect his career, who cannot just allow like unfortunate circumstances to get past him. Like everybody, for some apparent reason, just want to like just tear this dude down. And any mistake that he made, it can be minimal, it's going to be amplified. If Jameis Winston throws a football and the ball pops in the air and it gets intercepted, it was the dumbest pass in the history, even if it went through the wide receiver hands. That's just the way that it goes. That's just the narrative about Jameis. But I like the fact that he wants to stay healthy because that's the only reason and the only way he's going to get back to being, that starting caliber quarterback. If nothing's ailing him and he has to put forth the best effort possible. And if it means that you have to sit on a bench for one more year to get yourself healed up, and by the next year, you'll be able to get opportunity to maybe play and be a starter in the league once again, then I say go for it. But I think that this is the best move, for the New Orleans Saints, not Jameis Winston, because I feel like Jameis Winston could find a job and he's good enough to beat out maybe some of the competition that's out there, but it's good for the New Orleans Saints. And it's fortunate for the New Orleans Saints because I stand by what I said. Jameis Winston is the best backup quarterback in the NFL. The Saints have the best backup quarterback in the NFL. You can talk about Jacoby Brissett. You can talk about Andy Dalton. You can talk about Taysom Hill. Anybody that talks about Taysom Hill and think that Taysom Hill is a better quarterback than Jameis Winston, I don't want to talk football with you. Like, it's clear. Like, if you want to talk about the things that Taysom can do as an overall football player, I'm with you. But throwing the football, man, please, like, seriously, like, don't talk football no more. If we talking about quarterback skills throwing the football, if you think that Taysom Hill is a better quarterback than Jameis Winston, I stand by what I said, and I'm going to continue to say that. The Saints have the best backup quarterback in Jameis Winston in the entire league. If the Saints were to lose Derek Carr for a certain amount of time, Jameis Winston has the ability and what it takes to not only keep the ship afloat, but can keep the ship going in the direction that it needs to go in. He's that talented. So if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. If you're still living on 2019, stop allowing narratives to cloud your mind. All I'm saying is the dude is really talented. I'm glad he's back with the New Orleans Saints. Best position for the New Orleans Saints, once again, not Jameis Winston, but for the New Orleans Saints, maybe it's been a lot of bad luck that's been coming to New Orleans Saints way over the last couple of years. So maybe this can be one of those situations where maybe the luck can kind of turn around because Lord knows we need some luck. We need some good fortune in a Who Dat Nation. But let me go ahead and read some more of your comments. So it says, KC, cut it out, dude. Y'all still got Chris Jones. Y'all not worried about this backup. Let's see. I'm not happy about Saunders being gone. I think that's fair. Man, you have to understand a lot of these guys have invested a lot of time in these organizations, and these organizations have invested a lot of time in these guys. So I can understand that. I mean, Hefe, if he's not the only person that I've seen that's a Kansas City Chiefs fan that has said that, this dude is a really good player. So that's I've been hearing that a lot, and I like him a lot. And if you follow him going into the draft a couple of years ago back in 2018, I mean, dude is pretty good. Nice signing, but we still need another wide receiver. Yeah, I definitely feel like the Saints need another wide receiver. I do feel that way. I think they need another veteran and maybe draft a guy. I don't know what these other guys can do. I mean, Kurt Merritt and Dejon Dixon and Quan Baker and, Keith Kirkwood. I mean, these guys aren't going to move the needle. They're not moving the needle. I'm not impressed with that. You want to get yourself somebody that can make some plays, not somebody that you're going to develop into making plays. I hear that the Saints are really liking the Illinois safety, Sidney Brown. Well, there's a lot to like about him. I mean, he's a guy that's a solid tackler. He's a guy that can, play in a box where the Saints like their safeties to play. I'm more of a Trey Dean type guy, out of Florida. I think that he fits, he's a good fit for the New Orleans Saints. But, if they were to get Sidney Brown, I wouldn't be mad at it. I had the opportunity to watch Sidney Brown quite a bit, watched him at the combine, he's a guy that is he's legit, man. Nice size, good tackler, fundamentally sound, needs a little bit of work, little hip movement and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, he's a sure tackler and he can get it done and he can cover a lot of field as well. Let's see. I think we signed these dudes for depth. We don't have any defensive tackles on the roster. We probably signed more D tackles. No, that is not true. You don't sign guys to a 3-year, $15 million contract if you don't think they're going to be a part of your starting rotation. If that was the case, they would have signed them to like a 1-year deal. I don't know if you ever seen Colin Saunders play, but there's nothing about him that just tells me that he won't be a starting defensive tackle. I know these guys' names aren't the names that you hear all the time unless you like really knee deep and involved in football. But both of these guys are really good. But Saunders, I don't know about Shepard being a part of that starting rotation, but Saunders is definitely going to be a part of that starting rotation. But even with this number right here, I have to believe that the Saints are going to be going into 2023 believing that these guys are going to be 1 and 2 respectively. Unless they get themselves a young player in the first round and he just beats them out in camp, and then all of a sudden, it's going to be it's going to be Saunders, period. I don't know about Shepard. Saunders and Kancey, or Saunders and Edabawe, or Saunders and Brees, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, like, whatever. But it's going to be Saunders. Saunders is going to be the starter. Because if he's not going into the season being a starter, he's going to compete, and he's going to flash so much that you ain't going to have a choice to give it to him. Jameis is not 100%, obviously, and that's smart for him. People think football players make choices off emotions. No, they make choices based on decisions. Kim, that's absolutely right. It's no different between you making a decision or Jameis Winston making the decision. If your boss came to you today and said, I wanted you to head up an office in Seattle, Washington, you got to think about that. What about, are you going to help me move? If I have kids, I think about, I take my kids out of school. If my wife has a certain profession, is that going to prohibit her from getting another opportunity? You got to have these type of conversations. I've been blessed to have offers and deals and stuff like that, but it would involve me to travel. And, I have to have those type of conversations with my wife. And, you got to think about what's best for us, her, our son, the circumstances of being around family. I mean, you have to think about those type of things. And also, it makes it much easier when you know for a fact that you're indeed not 100% and you're still healing up, because you know for a fact that there's going to be some ailment that's going to be prohibiting you from reaching your full potential. So why go out there and pretend and fake the funk and also continue to allow people to add even more narratives about you? And for a fact that the reason why these narratives exist is because you were too impatient, or you didn't make the right decision, or you didn't allow yourself to heal. If something's wrong with Jameis Winston being the backup quarterback this season for the New Orleans Saints, it can give him opportunities to heal up, because I'm pretty sure that, Derek Carr is going to play, and if something was to happen to him, I'm pretty sure that, around that time, all these months later, Jameis will feel a little bit better and he'll be able to go out there with nothing really ailing him. So I think it's a plus. Sometimes you got to make those type of decisions. Sometimes those decisions may not make sense to a lot of people. A lot of people criticize Jameis Winston for coming back, but if he knows his body, he knows his circumstance. So, I trust it. I think Shaheed will take over all special teams and be like the number 4 wide receiver. Well, if he's the number 4 wide receiver, something is wrong there. Okay. I think Rashid Shaheed is really good. I think that the guy, deserves an opportunity to compete, to rise up the depth chart. I can kind of do without his punt and kick returning. The best thing that he does better than any other receivers or any of the other special teams guys on the team is field the punt, all right, or field the kick. Like I'm not too concerned about Rashid Shaheed fielding punts. Like I've seen this dude like literally catch the ball behind his back like this when a punt came to him. Like he caught it as if somebody was just throwing him a straight bullet pass. But that's the type of talent that he is. And, if the Saints were to find somebody else, the Saints do a really good job at finding those diamonds in the rough. And if it just so happened that he's a kick returner, I say get those responsibilities to that person and allow Rashid Shaheed to be that alternate, but add more to his plate. I think what we seen last season from Shaheed, I think he deserves more on his plate. Like this wasn't just an outlier. Like this to me, I gotta say it because things happen. But if you go back and watch this dude run routes, he's only going to get better. He reminds me of a young Antonio Brown. The way that he runs his routes, his speed, he's a little bit faster than Antonio Brown in my opinion. But he reminds me so much of it because Antonio Brown was a little bit raw with the route run in the first couple of years, and then around year 3 and year 4, he was just on another level. This guy is more advanced than most rookies that you see running routes. Like, there's a reason why this dude will be open, and he don't really drop a lot of passes. I don't think I ever seen him drop a pass. Like normally, like if the ball's in his vicinity, he gonna catch it, and he comes down with it, and he has like really good size. He's like 6'1", 6'2". So that's exactly what you actually need. So if the Saints were to just remove that special teams title from him and bring somebody else in to maybe, take over the special teams, that way you don't have to worry about too much of the injury bug plaguing a guy like Shaheed, I wouldn't be mad at that. I wouldn't be mad at it. If he can come in and produce and be a part of that rotation. And if he comes in and he's much better than he was last year, you might have to take that into consideration. Because why would you want to put a guy that can be a valuable asset to your team, especially from what you actually seen in years past involving Michael Thomas? You want to make sure that if a guy has that type of talent, you want him to be upright. It would be unfortunate, if he was just to get hurt fielding a punt or something like that, when he probably was out there beasting and doing some really good things, being a part of the offensive rotation. So that may be something that they need to look at. For the last couple of years, the Saints have done a really good job finding these return aces. Like it's crazy how they found the first best punt returner in college football in Deontay Harris / Hardy, and then a few years later you find the guy that broke his records and Shaheed. So it's pretty wild how they find those guys and they find these diamonds in the rough. And, it's amazing how they did that. I want to say shouts out to Marlon Favorite, former LSU Tiger. He mentioned that. He says the Saints is almost like a G League team or something like that, a developmental team. Like they find these diamonds in the rough and they develop these guys and they send them out here to make more money. And as neat as that sounds, is one of the things that kind of irks me as a Saints fan, because they get these guys and they build them up, and around year 3, year 4, it's time for them to re-up a new contract. Year 3, the year before it's time for them to sign, they have some of their best numbers statistically. It happened with Trey Hendrickson. It happened with Von Bell. I mean, it happened, to be honest, it happened with Marcus Williams. They just put a franchise tag on him. So it's just amazing how they develop these guys, and these guys go somewhere else, and they really are a valuable asset to the next team that they go to. And the Saints basically just got them when they were raw and inexperienced and green as grass. It's frustrating as a Saints fan. You're happy that these guys, the light came on for them so they can be able to take care of their families. But, man, don't you wish that they did that when they had opportunities, when they had like 2 years and 3 years left on their contract to be able to produce in a big way. I think we need to at least one other wide receiver tight end, do something with Andrews Pete and his contract, get another edge guy get a starting 3 technique, a nickel guy, and of course, a running back. Look, I'm not mad at that at all, Eli. I think that you hitting the nail on the head. If you can get a tight end in the later rounds, that'll be fine. They got a tight end out of North Dakota State that everybody was going crazy about at the combine. You got Mallory out there, tight end out of Miami. So you got guys that they're going to probably be there in the later rounds. They're going to be there that can be available to you at the tight end position. Also, the wide receiver position, I think that when you're adding Michael Thomas, you got Shaheed, you got Chris Olave, right? I think that there's still room for another possession receiver that can come to this team. Now, you can do it by signing a unrestricted free agent that's available right now. I would hope that somebody like Adam Thielen can come to you, even though I think he's visiting Carolina. That would honestly probably be a good spot for him, But if you can get a guy like Thielen, if you can possibly make a deal, maybe call the Texans, you have a good rapport with them. Maybe getting a guy like Brandon Cooks and drafting, a guy like Bryce Ford Wheaton that's probably going to be there for you, in the 4th or the 5th round. Or one of these larger guys, if you want to go later, you can find a guy, I don't know, like Dallas Daniels out of Jackson State, who I feel like is going to be a pretty good, decent wide receiver in the league. Did a really good job for the East-West Shrine game that was taking place out there in Las Vegas. He did a real good job, had a couple catches there, and has been really working on, his route running ability and, working on his strength as well. So there's going to be some guys in some of those later rounds. The wide receiver position in this draft, the wide receivers is pretty deep. And you also have a lot of the receivers that kind of fit that mold of the New Orleans Saints. Also another guy, and I mentioned this about Shaheed, Derek Davis. He's a wide receiver out of TCU. Of course, Johnston, the big-time wide receiver, he got most of the attention, but Davis is a burner, man. Like he ran the fastest time in the 40 at the combine. He's a really good guy that you can probably add when it comes to the kick returns. So there's some ways that you can look at this. There's some veterans out there that can fall to you, via trade that won't cost you an arm and a leg. Also wide receivers that's unrestricted that won't cost you an arm and a leg. And also you can just, find maybe that possession guy in the draft, that you're looking for. So there are many different angles the Saints can come from, and they can fill some needs. You've seen how bad Winston played. He had 4 fractured vertebrae in his back and a torn ligament in his foot. Well, look, here's the thing, and I'm going to say this. Like, I'm not in the business of trying to bash Jameis Winston. Like, there's not enough of a sample size as a member of the New Orleans Saints that could convince me that this guy isn't good enough to be a starting quarterback. Most of the time, people were very hesitant to see him come to the New Orleans Saints because of what happened in 2019. So it's not even about wanting to see this guy get better. It's about wanting to keep the narrative that you had about him alive. That's what it's about. So you want to see this dude fail. You're not looking at the fact that he was 5-2 as a starter, or the fact that he facilitated a 16-point comeback in the 4th quarter, or any of these things, right? Like, nobody's taking these type of things into consideration. When this guy has a little bit of a bad game, or he fumbles, or he throws an interception, nobody cares if you've been complaining and saying that he's not the guy. Because at the end of the day, the only thing you care about mostly is being right. Like, that bothers me about folks. Like, if a person presents something to you, and you may have one particular thought or feeling or view about that individual, but if that person starts to show improvement, what's wrong with saying, you know what? I ain't think it was going to work out. I ain't think that we can make this thing work. But man, he looked pretty good to me. But instead, man, all he did was dink and dunk all game. All he did was throw the ball in the flat. All he did, like, it's okay to say, okay, the dude getting better. a lot of people holding on to narratives, and they wanted to see this dude fail. So there's nothing Jameis Winston can do as a player. There's nothing Jameis can do as a quarterback that can change your mind, because you already made up in your mind that he's not good enough. So even if he does positive things, you're not going to give him big ups. You're going to wait till he probably does something that justifies your argument. And then all of a sudden, you're just going to present it to everybody and go on Twitter and be on there all day. I said this. I said that. Start retweeting your own tweets, right? So at the end of the day, man, I'm not concerned with those type of folks. I want the individuals out there that are willing to evaluate this dude fairly and not just looking at the fact that everybody's saying he's throwing 30 interceptions and you feel embarrassed because he's a part of your team. That's just the reality. Let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit. Says TJ, who should the Saints take if they were to move up? Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith. If you feel like Kalijah Cansey is not available and you feel like he won't be there at 29, then him. But either or, right? And this may sound crazy, but got to think about this, folks. There's a guy out there that was, could still be picked really high. And I'm talking about Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is projected and has said, they said that he's supposed to be like a top 5 defensive tackle, right? A top 5 player coming out of Georgia. But all of these, these events that just transpired, the drag racing event that involved 2 individuals being killed, the stop by the police, giving them 5 citations for all type of different things. There's this narrative that Ty McShay put out there talking about the type of mental makeup that he has might turn a lot of teams off. How many teams it can turn off? Could turn off quite a bit of teams. And if it turns off quite a few teams, and you got to think about it, there are a lot of teams that need more than just a defensive tackle. They need quarterbacks. They need wide receivers, right? They need offensive linemen. So if you can see a guy like Jalen Carter like moving down in the draft, why not make a phone call and be like, man, let me try to see if I can, who is, more than likely to want to draft this guy. We got to jump in front of him. Maybe you can be that team, just like when in 2017, the Kansas City Chiefs knew that you was going to draft Patrick Mahomes and they jumped in front of you. Maybe you can be that team. Excuse me. Maybe you can be that team. So, I mean, if you see a guy like Jalen Carter falling, why in the world wouldn't you, want to draft him? A lot of times guys, do things, because it's a means to an end. You got to think about some of the things that these guys endured, what they've gone through. And, sometimes you don't make the best decisions like when you're hungry, trying to, I can understand this. You don't want to be a burden on your family, or you don't want to, you don't want to be, that nuisance or whatever like that. So, sometimes these guys, they make these decisions in college, and when they become pros, you never have no problem with them. And then also, I feel like if he was to come to the New Orleans Saints, there's enough guys in his locker room that can, keep him level-headed. But I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that scenario out there. TJ, some people are their own echo chambers. I agree with that. It says Jameis is good. He deserves better, though. Staying here ain't the best move for him. Well, it seems like to me he's content with it. So if he's content with it, then I'm content with it. Ezekiel was just cut by the Cowboys. Well, that's unfortunate for him. Very unfortunate. And, he's had some good years, man, but I just feel like when you're that bell cow back and they've been giving you the ball so long, man, and, I think he still has, something to offer a team. As a starter, I'm not sure. But as a guy that's going to be in a rotation, I absolutely believe that. I love for us to get Levante. I always liked him, especially when it was him and Quan. He's not going to be cheap, though, and he's 33. Well, there seems to be a trend that's going on around here. It seems like the South is staying in the South. Rather you leave the Saints and go to the Falcons, Or leave the Saints to go to Carolina, or you leave Carolina to go to Tampa, or you leave Carolina. It just seems like everybody just mixing and matching. Like, man, I want some of that. So who knows, man? He might end up with the Falcons. He might end up in Carolina. Like, he might end up with the Saints, or he might end up like going somewhere else like the Eagles, like or Minnesota. But wherever he goes, they got to get themselves a really good linebacker. I got a lot of respect for Levante David. Guy just plays really good. And most of the time when we despise guys and don't like them is because they probably wrecking shop and destroying us from getting into the end zone or our favorite team. So I have no problem with it. I have no problem with him. If he was to come to the New Orleans Saints, I wouldn't have no problem with that at all either. But, the question is, do you really need him? I can think about other needs that the Saints need other than linebacker, which is crazy. Because last year, the biggest need that we felt we needed was linebacker. I would take Ezekiel with the Saints. Well, I mean, if he comes here, I mean, there's definitely something he can do. But I'd rather go younger. I'd rather go younger and add a young guy to go along with Alvin Kamara. And if Alvin Kamara just so happened to be suspended, then, you roll with that young guy that has basically the same similar skill set, a guy that can be a 3-down back, and maybe you add yourself, a veteran. But I mean, Benjamin is not bad. Like, he's not a bad running back. Good, solid backup running back, a guy that can, come in and run the football if your starter go down. So I don't have a problem with Benjamin. You may not recognize the name, but he got some game. People need to stop saying that the Saints are in cap hell when the Saints keep proving them wrong. Well, it's lazy television. It's lazy television, it's lazy narratives, and it's almost like to follow the leader, follow the narrative. That's what it is, right? So they can continue to say that, but they're gonna continue to look ridiculous. I have no problem with people feeling this way because if you think about the natural order of the NFL, it shouldn't work. So I can understand them actually having that thought pattern. But when a team continues to prove you wrong and you still double down on it, like Nick Wright has done, and shouts out to Aaron for the Black and Gold Breakdown podcast, putting this little nugget out there, saying that he said all these things about the Saints, and the Saints end up poaching one of his players from his favorite team, the Kansas City Chiefs, and Saunders. I find that hilarious, man, and that was a good take by him, man, to acknowledge that and recognize that. Shouts out to Aaron. But my issue is where you are proven wrong and you still try to act as if you weren't wrong. Like, it's okay to say I wasn't right about something, right? But I guess his career will be over because he thinks that everything he says, he has to say it with conviction. And he got to say it with his whole chest and not apologize for it. Well, may not want to apologize for it, but it's okay to say that you're wrong. Daniel, that's not going to change nobody getting married. Will Jameis be the second quarterback of Taysom, and did they restructure Taysom's contract? Well, they restructured his deal. They just kind of, how they normally do, put some phantom years on there and turned his base salary into a signing bonus, to free up some money. So, but now I don't see I see Taysom Hill. Now, if you're asking me, is Taysom Hill going to play more than Jameis Winston? He will, right? Because I think you're going to see Taysom Hill come into the game. I think you're going to see him like kind of, go in and out with Derek Carr. I don't think you're going to see Jameis Winston doing that. So, yeah, if you're asking me, is Taysom going to be in that, that slash quarterback role and be on the field much more than Jameis? Absolutely. He would definitely, like, unless something happened to Derek Carr, Taysom Hill will throw more passes than Jameis Winston this season. I like Mozzie Smith. Yeah, I like him too. Defensive tackle out of Michigan. But I'm gonna be honest. I looking at it, I think he's like to me the fourth best interior lineman that's on the board. I think that you got Jalen Carter. I think that you got Kalijah Kancey. You got Brees out of Clemson. And you got I got to put him fifth because I think that Edobawe is a little bit better. Eagles released Slay. That's no surprise. They were trying to move Darius Slay. I mean, they were so desperate that they actually tried to hit up the Dallas Cowboys to try to acquire him. That tells you, right? And I guess they couldn't work out a deal. So the Cowboys decided to get Stephon Gilmore, who is still got something left in the tank as well. TJ, after all these changes, new quarterback, Mike T back, younger D-line, how do you feel about this year's playoffs above 500? You think Carr will play elite? I don't think that Derek Carr will play elite. If he does, it would shock me. But if you look at the condition and the state of the NFC as a whole, based on the lack of star power at the quarterback position, it's wide open. And if you're looking at it now that we know that Aaron Rodgers more than likely is going to move to the AFC, who do you got? Right? You got to concede that Derek Carr is one of the top 3 or top 5 best NFC quarterbacks. Right? So with that being said, you have to believe that the Saints got a chance. But is it a chance because he's going to play elite, or is it a chance because he's the best by circumstance? I don't know. But I do feel comfortable with the team. I do feel like the Saints are a playoff team. If they can get this offense together and they get away from being timid and shy and reserved and not being aggressive when it comes to like certain situations and tucking their tail between their legs in certain situations, I think they should be fine. I just think that the swagger needs to come back to this team. I think the confidence needs to come back to this team. It's not so much about what I see on the field, more so than what I feel like is going through those guys' heads mentally. And I just think that as a coach, you have to show these players that you trust them. You got to show them that you're going to put them in the best position to succeed. And you definitely got to show them that you trust them in certain situations. And I just feel like when it came to the offense, Dennis Allen just did not trust these guys, and sometimes, they did kind of prove him right by not trusting him, right? 4th and 1, you can't get 1 yard. Some of these dumb plays, especially that play against Tampa when you only got Cam Meredith and Kirk Meredith on a team and Taysom Hill on the field. Like, why are you running a jumbo package in that type of situation? So I can understand that, but you have to trust your team. You got to trust them. You got to believe that they can actually get it done. And if they can't get it done, at least you know that you gave them a chance. You can't be walking around here being afraid and looking forward to playing on defense, even though that's your calling card. You got to allow your offense to cook. And you also got to try to instill some level of confidence in them, even when things are going bad. Sometimes a good girl will settle you down, though, Brian. Most of these players have footballs and family. I wouldn't last being out here with all that money and a bunch of my homeboys. I couldn't personally. Well, I don't know exactly what we're talking about, but, if you find the right person, if you find somebody that you love, man, it don't matter how much money you got. Don't matter how much, coming into your bank account. Don't matter how many chicks trying to holler at you. No matter how many dudes trying to holler at you. If you got a really good, structure, you should be fine. You know what I'm saying? But, sometimes, you start doing stuff when you're young. And then when you start to get older, man, your values begin to change. And sometimes it happens for some guys. Sometimes it don't. TJ, what are the chances we could get CJ Gardner-Johnson back since he is a free agent? Well, the longer he's out there, the more appealing I'm pretty sure he can look for the New Orleans Saints. But I think that ship is sailed. I think the way that he left, I think the way that he was traded so abruptly, I think the fact that what he was actually traded for, to me, I think that it is a bridge that's been burned. And, can it be rebuilt? Probably. I don't know. It depends on what exactly happened, but it doesn't seem like, he left on the best of terms. And we all know what type of player that he is. We all know the type of talent that CJ Gardner-Johnson possesses. But, when you move a guy like that in such a disrespectful way, it's probably hard for a guy to want to do business with you. And you might be a phone call that they take, but it won't be the first. So I would be shocked to see that happen. Like, he's the type of person that will go to the Falcons to play the Saints out of spite. Need a power running back in free agency and possibly a Kamara understudy in the draft. That suspends Loomis. Well, look, I think they're going to draft a running back, probably going to be in the later rounds. If Bijan Robinson is there at 29, which I doubt, and what happened with Ezekiel Elliott today, I'm pretty sure that I think that's a clear indication that the Cowboys have their eye on Bijan Robinson. But, you know, if you can get yourself a running back in like the later rounds, you know, that'll be a plus, because there's a lot of really good running backs that are going to go to teams and be really good, that are going to be drafted in the 4th round, or drafted in the 3rd round, or drafted in the 5th round. Just watch. He is pretty much going to the Jets. He confirmed it. If you draft Kancey, you need a big nose to create one-on-ones. That's what you got in Saunders. Saunders is 330 pounds. That's a big nose tackle, man. That's a big dude. That's a big man, right? I know he's super athletic, but he's a big man. And so is Shepard. Shepard is 315 pounds. So these some big guys, man. These some potato boys, man. These some lunch table cats right here, man. These some run stuffers. So they got it. Wow, the Cowboys released Ezekiel Elliott. That news came down like late last night, early this morning. So that wasn't a surprise, and neither was the Darius Slay thing. If you've been following it, you know, you kind of saw it coming. Teams got to improve on 3rd down. True. The only quarterback in NFC you could rank ahead of Carr is Hurts. Yep. Yep. You got to put him in the like top 3 or top 5. Nolan Nerd, we have to do the same thing at running back upgrade. The NFC is wide open. Yep. Jameis and Mike staying with the Saints. Good quarterbacks, good receivers. We that Saints family. Yeah, I mean, look, Michael Thomas coming back was huge. Jameis Winston coming back as your backup is huge. Adding another running back, to me, would be huge. Maybe adding a little bit more depth on the offensive line would be huge. You need to address the offensive line, because I'm not comfortable, and you shouldn't be comfortable, especially what you have seen over the last couple of years. Like, it's been too much plug and play at the offensive line. A lot of injuries, losing a battle of attrition. So that's a position that they need to address as well. I know my girl saved me, that's for sure. I wasn't looking good in my early 20s. I think a lot of people can say that. And look, if you didn't do right in your 20s, that's fine, man, because when you're young, you're inexperienced. You don't know exactly what life is going to be throwing at you. You're not caring about that. I mean, you got all the energy in the world. You just want to be in a moment. When you get older, you don't care about that stuff. You know, you don't. Like, you know, I'm 36. Like, the only thing I care about is my family's well-being. You know, like, let me go to Walmart and give me a couple shirts that cost $5. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Long as my son looking good, got a fresh haircut, you know what I'm saying? Some nice clothes, some nice shoes. Long as my wife has a smile on her face and she joking and laughing, and you know what I'm saying? I'm happy. You know, and sometimes it takes time to get to that point. Because, you know, in your 20s, you're not thinking about that. Not that level of responsibility. You're just thinking about what a club at and how early I need to get there to drink for free. What's up, TJ? You think this Peyton Turner last shot to start, or are they going to just draft another pass rusher opposite Cam? Well, I think they're going to give Peyton Turner opportunity. I think that, you know, this is his time to shine. I think that they will try to bring somebody in, because you have to look at this as an insurance policy now. You have to. Like, you cannot just sit up here and say, oh, well, we got Michael Thomas. Oh, well, we got Andrew Speed. Oh, well, we got Peyton Turner. No. What you have seen in years past is these guys going down. And you don't want it to happen, but you also have to prepare and look at the fact that it's a possibility that it could happen, right? So you got to dot your I's and you got to cross your T's, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta stay prepared, right? And you gotta create some level of insurance for yourself. take Tank in the 4th or the 5th at running back. Yeah, I like Tank McBride. I like him, man. Good, solid running back. Hey, TJ, which other defensive lineman would you want the Saints to go get? I would want Fletcher Cox or Frank Clark. Excuse me. I'm still big on Calais Campbell. I ain't got Fletcher Cox. I met him a couple times, seen him a couple times when I was working out in Yazoo City. I think he still lives out there. Good guy, nice guy. Very friendly to everybody. Ain't got no problem with him. Good player. You know what I'm saying? Definitely was a disruptor. To me, I don't know if people remember this, but he ended up getting injured in that divisional game a couple of years back against the Saints. And I have to believe if he would have stayed in that game, I don't know what would have happened, because the Saints were able to run after he left. They were able to make some plays after he left. He left for a little while, came back in, and he was just such a problem. So definitely would love to have him on the team. But once again, I got to look at the price tag. And you also have to look at what the Saints are trying to do. Are you trying to get younger? Are you trying to get yourself out of this cap situation, which Mickey Loomis has alluded to, that he's trying to get the cap back to the middle? And you don't get the cap back to the middle by signing guys like Fletcher Cox and Frank Clark. You just don't, right? I mean, they're really good players, but you also got to think about, the price tag that comes with it. So they do want to try to work that thing out and get the price tag back to the middle. You don't do that by getting guys that's going to demand a really large market in free agency. I agree. The offensive line, mainly left guard, needs to be upgraded. They have options. Move Penning to left guard and draft a left tackle, or keep Penning at left guard and draft a left. Keep Penning at left tackle and draft a left guard. Either way, Pete needs to be released. I do think they need to get younger. I'm an advocate of Trevor Penning moving to guard. I think that's a good idea. I just think that he just fits that mold. And if you can get a guy who, like a center, you can move to guard, or a guard, or a tackle that can move to guard. Like, I think you can do something like that. But I think that you need to get younger on the offensive line, and hopefully, get some guys that's a little bit more durable. TJ, why was Slade cut? Because they paid too much for him, right? Look, Philly were trying to win now. Philly understood that they had Jalen Hurts, and they were going to have to pay this dude, right? So they went out there and they went all in, and it almost worked. Couple plays here, couple, defensive plays there, and who knows? They probably would have been a Super Bowl champion, and they probably would. And Howie Roseman would have looked like the smartest guy in the room. And for that entire season in 2022, Howie Roseman looked like the smartest guy in the room. I mean, it's all started with the trades, right? With the New Orleans Saints, moving up with Philly to acquire Chris Olave. And then all of a sudden, here comes Seeded Deuce having an issue, can't get no paper. So, okay, we'll take him off your hand for a 5th-round pick. Okay, basically traded the dude for Magic Beans. Howie Roseman looking like the smartest man in the world. Then the Philadelphia Eagles were the best team in the NFC, best team in football for a good little minute. Made them look even more like a genius. Then all of a sudden, you had Jordan Davis go down, get hurt for a couple of weeks. What do? You go get veterans Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, looking like an absolute genius, right? Team goes into the postseason, a bunch of really good fortune on their part, misfortune for other teams. You had guys get hurt, key players leaving the game, all these different things just kind of makes you coast into the Super Bowl. Problem is, you went up against arguably the best quarterback of this generation in Patrick Mahomes, of the modern era, I should say, modern era. So it almost worked. But now you have to, make some tough decisions. And Darius Slay is one of those tough decisions. So by releasing him, is a cap casualty. He's not going to be on the street for long, because we all know how talented this dude is. He can lock down half of the field. There's some teams that's going to acquire his service. And he pretty much can name his spot because everybody wants him. So I expect for him to probably want to play on the West Coast. Maybe, play for the Rams, maybe play for the Chargers, 49ers. He's going to be able to go somewhere, and a team is going to get a really good cornerback. But that's just the break sometime, right? You go out there, you try to play, you put the best team on the field possible. If you're trying to win now, you're trying to go for broke. I mean, we should know that as Saints fans. I mean, 2020, the Saints tried to go for broke. It didn't work out for them. James, TJ, who should the Saints look at in the SWAC as an offensive line? Hopefully, Southern University don't take it personal. Don't take it personally, Mr. JSU. James, look, who do I feel like the Saints should look at? Mark Evans, out of Arkansas Pine Bluff, offensive tackle. He's an athletic guy, very, very talented, really good player. Man, of course, I got to talk about my boy Aubrey Miller, linebacker out of Jackson State. Dallas Daniels is another guy. Dijon Warren is another individual. Jordan Davis. I may be messing his name up. Maybe that is his name. The pass rusher out of Southern, the guy who led the HBCU SWAC and sacks almost every year he was at Southern. So Jordan Lewis, I think that's his name. My bad, Jordan Lewis, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, yeah, there's some very talented guys out there in the SWAC that can actually make some noise. They can make some noise. Keen Arthur, thank you very much for the $2. Says, what asset can we use to draft Nolan Smith? Like I said, I mean, if he might fall in those mid-teens, you can probably move up to try to get him. Like I said at the beginning of the show, the New England Patriots, they're not afraid to move up. Move back, I should say. They'll give it to you. If you give, they will add draft capital onto their team, and we've seen them move out of the first round. Right? That's just the way that Belichick works. There's a certain type of player that Belichick seems to be looking at. So that's a team that you can look at. And there's some other teams. They might, another team might pick the guy that they wanted, and they'd probably be more willing to move back. Cox market value is 2 years, $28 million, $14 million a year. Clark is 2 years, $24 million, $12 million per year. You look at what the Saints signed, Saunders, 3 years, 14.5. Shepard, 3 years, 15. So, I mean, come on. You do the math. $14 million for Cox. Yeah. And you have what? $12 million for Clark. Nah, I think that's a little bit too rich for the Saints' blood. Let's see. Calais Campbell price is approximately $7 million. Kind of falls into that category around what you're giving Shepard, what you're giving Saunders. A little bit more, which is deserved. A couple $1 million more. Keen Arthur Slade and Philly couldn't come to an agreement. He's counted for $8 million against the cap. Yep, I'm gonna read a few more. Then we're gonna get up out of here, folks. Says I was watching a breakdown of Colin Saunders, and they had a big man playing MLB in spots in KC. He's super athletic. I'm looking forward to seeing him out there. Yeah, they lined him up all type of ways, and I seen him play tight end when he was in college. I mean, dude is athletic. TJ, you think Taysom Hill will become a Saints Hall of Fame player if he sticks with us until the end? He's already a Hall of Famer in my book. I mean, look, you can like Taysom Hill or not. He leaves a lot to be desired at the quarterback position. I'm not going to lie about that. But one thing that you can say is he is a trendsetter. Like, he is a trendsetter. Like, there are teams out here that's trying to do the same things that the Saints have used Taysom Hill doing for years. So there's a wave of quarterbacks that's coming in right now that has a job because of Taysom Hill. Like, Taysom Hill is already a Saints Hall of Fame in my book. Like, seriously, like I mean, he is a great football player. Like, I don't think there's ever been that I've seen a guy who can just do so much on the field like Taysom Hill can. Like, Taysom Hill can make plays by catching the ball, throwing the ball down the field, breaking tackles, on special teams, blocking punts. Like, dude, like the greatest overall football player I've ever had the privilege to appreciate in my lifetime. And there are always going to be guys out there that's super athletic, like Michael Vick. That was a great moment, right? Cardell Stewart for, when I was a little younger, seeing Slash out there. But none of those guys, in my opinion, was doing what Taysom Hill is doing. Taysom Hill out here blocking. Taysom Hill out here breaking tackles. Taysom Hill out here throwing passes down the field, catching passes down the field, like being a spark for a team. He's already a Hall of Fame in my book. Like, if you look back, like how long he's been with the Saints, he's going to it's like 6 years? For 6 years, like, he's been one of the most necessary New Orleans Saints players on the team. So, to me, he's already a Hall of Fame. Like, I think when he retires, they'll probably put him in a ring. Well, I don't say probably. They are going to put him in a Ring of Honor. Like, Taysom Hill is a moment in time. Taysom Hill is to me, look, this is going to sound crazy, but I got to call it for what it is. Taysom Hill is the Steph Curry of the NFL. How Steph Curry came into the league and everybody was dunking and everybody was having a mid-range game. And then here come this light-skinned sucker who come out here that's shooting threes from half court. Now everybody trying to shoot threes from half court. Now most teams draft guys because they can shoot threes. Most teams in the NBA shoot threes more than they dunking on mid-range game. Now what you have with Taysom Hill, him coming in, Sean Payton finding him, like basically just on a whim, like wasn't even looking at him, and found the spot in the lane for this dude. And now you seeing teams doing some of the same things and trying to find quarterbacks that can, overall football players that can do what Taysom Hill is doing. So to me, Taysom Hill is already a Hall of Famer, a Saints Hall of Famer in my book. I agree, man. He did something to us that no one has with any other team. What I feel about Taysom Hill only is about the quarterback position. As a player, he is the most necessary player, probably, like I've seen in a very long time. Like, because you can do so many things with him. There's not one player in the league that I've seen that does more than what Taysom Hill does. He is to me, he the best. Like, you got to think, he's the best overall football player that I've ever seen in my entire time watching football. And most of the time when we see these guys, we see them do one thing. Like Patrick Mahomes is good at throwing a football, right? He can move around the pocket, all that kind of stuff. That kind of add on to it, but he does nothing better than throwing a football. Taysom Hill, you can make an argument that he's your best special teams player. You can make an argument to say that he's your best running back in some games. Like, got to get a man his credit. But thank y'all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Shouts out to everybody here. It's been a while since we had these many people in here. I asked that you hit the like button. I think at one time, man, we got up to almost 600 viewers. So shouts out to everybody that stopped by. Please hit the like button on the way out. Thank the fine folks at Belly Up Sports, Sports Podcast Network for sponsoring, and also Mueller Brothers Golf. Thank them for being the official sponsor today of the State of the Saints podcast. You can check out the previous episodes that are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, and now on Megaphone. Like, you can check out the State of the Saints podcast on Megaphone. I've been pushing that because that's the new platform. Definitely want to get people more involved with that. So if you check out the State of the Saints podcast in audio form, check it out on Megaphone, so we can get those numbers up. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at TJAY Jones 8. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?